Matteo. Cheers.
Christopher.
Thanks for joining me on the Reluctant Psalm podcast. I'm really happy to have you here. I feel like I have a really lucky job, and that job is that I get to go around and make friends with a bunch of other wine people. And I love wine and I love wine people. So it's like a win-win. You know, there's obviously some negative things that go into it, which is fine. But, you know, one of my favorite things is finding people and finding friends. And you're somebody that from the very beginning, I automatically felt like, I like this guy. He's great. He's cool. He's nice. We have like similar kind of energy and stuff. And so I'm happy to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm feeling the same. Like, yeah, since I met you, like I feel like we are on kind of, you know, the same vibe in terms of hospitality and wine industry. And yeah, it's always fun to be with you.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you.
I'm so glad to be here.
We're happy to have you, and I know it's like 9:30 at night, and you know we're getting started, and it's a late night, and you know your lady's probably at home, like, hey, dude, like when are you gonna get home? But you know, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking the time, and like I was just saying, I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of like capture some memories of just like sitting with each other and talking. You know, way back in the day, people used to just sit and talk all the time, and that's kind of gone.
Now, with our phone, not even.
We're so distracted all the
anymore.
time, you know. So this is a great opportunity for that, I think. Well, one of the first things that we always talk about on each of the episodes is just kind of like your story. I mean, I know you. You're currently working in San Francisco. You're working for a restaurant group, Montesacro, a 54 Mint restaurant group. You're doing some of the wine buying, and I know that you either are from Sardinia or you've lived in Sardinia. And I played it from. I was fairly certain, but I just wanted to just give myself a little loophole just in case. And I know that you kind of have a liking for a lot of the kind of like cool hip producers that are in Sardinia that maybe we don't really get exposed to. And then you worked at a retail shop, but aside from that, I don't really know a ton about your story. Do you want to just kind of tell us and walk us through, like, was wine a big part of your life always?
Not always, actually. Like, it's like as you told, like, born in Sardinia, born and raised in Sardinia. Then I did a little bit of traveling in my young period. But coming back to the wine in my life, the wine as, you know, Southern Italian, but all Italian, it's always been part of your culture. You know, just talking about the classic Sunday lunch with all your family, it was a thing that happens every Sunday, no matter what. You have to be present, and then the wine, it's always been a protagonist in this kind of lunch and dinner. So I will always be surrounded by the wine, or in September to do some wine picking once in a while. But I wasn't thinking to that hospitality and the wine business, it will be like my job in the future. Yeah. I wasn't thinking, because I did several different things, because I didn't have like a very idea of what gonna do in my future. I grew up that I had like a really huge passion and love with any related to the animals. Then I start to be passionate about the fashion and making clothes. I take some class of making clothes.
That's awesome.
At the same time, university, political science degree. So like all different different things.
Place.
Yeah. But, you know, growing up, you need to maintain yourself. So I start, you know, as probably lots of people in our business, we just start to, you know, it could be one of the first job that you can find, especially on summer periods. Talking about in Sardinia, it is that you can find a summer job, 3 months, like as a dishwasher, let's say, or working in a
busboy, a host, or whatever.
Busboy, working in a club, and then these things, it became a kind of, you know, every summer I was doing. I started actually working in the kitchen inside, and I wasn't even liking it. I started as a dishwasher, then, you know, salad guy, then on the fryer, then I've been moved to the bar, and it was just kind of jobs to maintain, because I used to then I used to start to travel every year. After my graduation, I've been to Mexico for a couple of months. I really like always kind of, not so short travel. I like it to be like for a little bit, at least 2 months, 3 months in a place.
That's great.
To just discover the culture a little bit
kind of
more.
immerse yourself into it.
Yeah, that's right. And so I've been to Mexico and I stayed there. In Mexico, then I start to like the cocktail making and to work in a bar. And I was a little bit into cocktail and coffee at the period, and at the same time I was still making clothes, like sewing, but I think I suffered like a little bit of lack of creativity, and pretty much just start to work then full time in hospitality.
Yep.
Even because I was already on beginning of my late 20s, so I need a job.
Yeah.
I need to do.
Gotta have money
to do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I moved to. I come back to Italy. Then I moved to South Africa. In South Africa, I was doing farming, and just kind of volunteering farming, just to stay a little longer in there, because the family were giving me like just a accommodation and food
lodging,
in exchange.
Was it wine farming or just like potatoes, or like what
No,
were you growing?
it's more like family running farms,
Cool.
like just very, 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 very small farms. And
That's
actually,
awesome.
in there, I developed like I understood actually what biodynamic means, what permaculture means.
Right, sure.
I was already a little bit into wine thanks to my Zia Patrizia, my aunt. She's a sommelier, and on this family dinner and lunch, she probably noticed that I was a little bit into wine, and so she just started to
Push
pushing
a
me,
little. Yeah.
talking. So what do you think this tastes? Why this is different than the other one? Why do you like this one before?
That's great.
Yeah, I think that she's always like a person in my life that I always take as a, let's say, like as a goal of what she did.
Yeah. That's great.
And yeah, she pushed me, and then I started to take some class. But before than that, it was like in South Africa. I really start to understand that I love wine. That I love the diversity. That's what I like. I like really the diversity of every wine in every place, and I understood like the lowest intervention, the better it is in certain kind of environment, of course, and certain kind of product. Because I was doing farming not related with wine, but with some other plants, and I saw the result with biodynamics and with lowest intervention or fukuoka.
Everything tastes better. Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, yes. I think it's just that it was like this before, before the 60s, 70s, then when we start to be a little bit like overpopulated, and everybody wants to have this product or this time, then we have to do like overproduction, and this is what is happening. It's normal. I'm not blaming the industrialization of the product.
Yeah. But we lost ourselves a little bit.
A little bit, I think so,
yeah.
That's why even nowadays we are coming back. Everything now is organic.
That's true. Everybody wants to be organic. They want to be biodynamic, which is great. I mean, I love it. I think it's important. I think it's like when you're a kid, right? But culturally, we're like kids. Is like when you're a kid, you grow up, you don't really like appreciate. Maybe some people, but like I didn't, and I know a lot of other people that didn't. You don't really appreciate like your town, like where you're from, and your house.
No,
and you go like, I just need something different. I need to get away.
Imagine myself growing up in a small island with medium island, but with just few people. Yeah, it definitely you want to explore and
do something completely different, and then you start to kind of like figure out a way to marry your past and your present.
Which is now, like I'm 39, I'm now really thankful to be born in Sardinia
Yeah.
and to have the opportunity one day to be back there.
Yeah.
Because it's a really a magic place, guys.
I know. I can't. I really need to go. I mean, we've only been to Italy
We're
once
gonna
in
go.
19. We went to Piemonte. We stayed. Well, we went to Milan. We were in Milan for a few days. Stayed in Serlingadalba for a few days in Barolo, and then we went to Lake Como for a couple of days, and that was great.
And that's Como. I want to go to Como.
And then it was always like, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back. And then it was, we had then COVID happened, and then I had a major surgery, and then we had a baby, and now it's kind of like, ugh, when are we gonna go? So we were gonna wait for Emery to get a little older, and she can handle the flight. If she can handle a 12, 13-hour flight, then we're probably gonna try to figure out a way to make it over there.
See, well, and then after I really start to, let's say that I decide that the wine world is gonna be my world. When I came back after South Africa, came back Sardinia again, start to work in bars, mostly in that time, mostly like as a server and related like to wine service. I wasn't a sommelier at the time yet. Then I been to Australia. In Australia, I stay a little bit longer for 1 year and a half. Then I work a couple of bars in a Louis Roder champagne bar.
Wow.
Still like the wine passion was growing up. I was thinking to already in Australia to even study like enology. And then I became an uncle for my first probably only time in Sardinia, and I went back to see my niece, and I just get stuck in Sardinia because I was like in there I fall in love.
Yeah.
I say, oh, this is the place I want to live now.
Yeah.
Like this is the
Yeah.
Sardinia that I was complaining, but now that I really like, I enjoy. I was already kind of 30, so
Yeah.
I was a little bit more mature. I was not needing to party every
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
For sure, that
Yeah.
are things that you can still do in Sardinia. It's just that probably, there are not everyday bands from the States that play.
Yeah.
You have to make a compromise, you know, which is the music scene that in San Francisco, this is why I love to be in here.
Yeah.
By the way, then I start to work in a small enoteca, so a wine shop with cheeses, cold cuts, and a bunch of wine. And we did like a really, really great job. The guys still doing it. Actually, they are now becoming quite big. They have a little restaurant. And in that place, I really developed like a passion, a truly passion with wine, especially with natural wine. The owner, Samuel, is one of the guys that taught me, besides my aunt, like a lot about wine, but food and culture of food in general. Because the times, talking about 2015, I was already into food, but I wasn't caring too much about quality. I wasn't aware about, like was the best thing in hospitality right now, what's the trend, or the way of cooking. And this guy, Samuel, it taught me a lot, and we had a lot of fun with him, Barbara, and other co-workers, and we were actually quite famous in all over Italy because we were one of the first natural wine bar in Sardinia, and even one of the first in Italy.
Did you say the name of the wine shop already?
Sabores.
Sabores. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Then after Sabores, I take one kind of sabbatic year after 4 or 5 years at Sabores, 4 years. And I just try to live as a DJ, which is my first passion. Let's go together with the wine, is a vinyl collector.
Yeah.
Probably I mentioned to you already.
Yeah.
And so I just live as a DJ for a year, which in Sardinia it's not the easiest thing, but it was a fun year. And then I start to work with another friend of mine, Dario Torabi, in a place called Old Friend. He was in a need of an hand in his previous first restaurant. It was like a very, very small one, and it was great. Like we had a really great time, and he's a genius. He's a chef that I'm gonna force him. I'm gonna close in in a luggage and bring it in here
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm trying
right.
to ask him since years. Now he's becoming father, so we have to wait a little bit. And he's a genius. And at the time, I was already a som. I already developed my taste, and I really work well with him because he's crazy. He was doing like really extreme dishes, or he really like to play with very weird ingredients. And for me, it was super fun to pair with weird wine, these weird
Yeah, yeah.
dishes. Like
Yep.
so, I was playing a lot with oxidations.
That's cool.
Because one plate it could be like butterville brain
Yeah.
with red bell pepper and licorice.
Fuck,
And
that
so I
sounds
was using
confusing.
a kind of a wine, a Malvasia di Bosa, which is an oxidated white wine.
Cool.
That was going very well with the licorice. And talking about this speech, what really makes me alive in our world, in hospitality or in the wine world, is the pairing and the matching. Other than I love to let people discover new grape. This is what is I have in all kind of my passion in music, in wine, or in the clothes as well. I really like some peculiarities, some
Yeah, yeah.
differences.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why, because definitely I could say that I'm not a guy that I like homologation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's
Which is anything bad again, but that's what am I?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that seems fitting. I mean, with your journey and kind of like with what you've been through, it seems like you're kind of looking for.
Yeah, I really like, exactly. When I could be some jealous, exactly. I like to discover something unique, and I admit that I love to have it to be just the only one
Just
to have
yourself.
it
Yeah.
for a little bit, but not for selfishness. Pardon my English,
No, it's
guys.
fine. Drink more wine.
But-
Your English will get better.
But to let discover, I like to be one of the first to let discover other people.
Yeah,
That's why,
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. I love that. I mean, I think there's something to be said about that. I'm sure not everybody. I'm sure a lot of people in their lives have found something that they really like and that they've introduced to their friend groups and stuff. I love that. I mean, I love sharing. So to me, it's always been something that I enjoy, to find something that I think is cool and that I think is interesting and share it with others and share it with my friends, So, but fashion is not something I don't know if you can tell.
Oh, that shirt is great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I've had it forever. I love this shirt, but you look very fashionable and
Thank you.
it's great. So through your time in Sardinia and then working with your friend, how did you get to the US, and was Montesacro the first place that you started working, or?
Yeah, well, this is 100% thanks to Gianluca,
Okay.
Gianluca Legrotaglia, the owner of the Montesacro and 54 Mint Group, and we just opened a new place, like a kind of Italian rotisserie and deli in Richmond, Betola.
Yeah.
So he's the owner of all the company, and I've been introduced to him thanks to his wife Viviana, because she's Sardinian, and she came in our first in the first All Friend, where I used to work in the small one with Giuseppe Caros from Gambero Rosso. They are good friends, and she wrote an article about us. And then I think I met Gianluca a couple of months later, because they get stuck basically. If I don't get wrong, they get stuck after the second pandemic wave.
Right.
They were stuck in Sardinia, which is
You
not
could
a
be
bad
stuck in worse
place.
places.
Exactly. At the time, we had wisely we just changed location in a double of the sites, modern restaurant, just 1 month before the pandemic.
Oh.
So when we open again, Gianluca Viviana, they were one of our first customer. With a bunch of guys, with Giuseppe Puget, who is another producer from Sardinia, the Megama producer. He's the guy that make us our Montesacro wine.
Oh, okay. That's
Actually.
great.
And a couple of other guys of the industry. And I remember that since minute one, me and Gianluca, we fall in love with each other. I remember that it was like a huge lunch. Probably they sat for 4 or 5 hours.
Traditional Italian lunch.
Yeah,
Every time
I
we
remember
go to
that we
Stefano.
closed. We closed the restaurant with the them inside.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he in there, like he makes me. He said to me, "Why don't you come to San Francisco?" At the time, I was honored, but I wasn't certain to move again. I was kind of. I remember that I really suffered the coming back from Australia, like all my stuff, my belongings, my clothes, like, and Australia is not so close. And I remember I say, okay, no more. I can do travel, but definitely like now my home is gonna be in Sardinia. I'm sick of moving things.
Moving everything
From another side of the
Getting
world.
rid of
like
all
records,
my things and
every time.
Yeah.
I sit down. But then I stopped to sleep at night. I say, San Francisco, I should go. At the same time, I remember that I talked to my wife and I say, I spoke with Gianluca, the owner. Do you remember the owner from Montesacro? He's got a restaurant in San Francisco. He asked me if I want to go. And my wife, I remember, Mari, she say, come on, you always like that. Everybody, you see opportunity everywhere, but it isn't true. You're just making, your whole story. And I say, oh, well, it could be possible. Could be. Then another month later, we met at the winery. At the Megami, make a kind of a wine party, not a wine fair. It's too big word. It was a wine party, and in there, he asked me again, and in front of my wife.
Oh yeah.
And so we start to talk each other, and I decided to give it a go.
That's so cool. And then you've been here for how long now?
Since 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And what do you think? You like it?
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Still want to move back to Sardinia?
I would definitely. I see myself there to retire there. I have to admit. Yeah. Then you never know, but yeah.
I think. I mean, I haven't been to Sardinia, but I grew up in kind of a rural setting in Running Springs in Southern California. It's the mountain area, it was really beautiful. And then my grandparents have property in Joshua Tree. And so I was always going to like remote areas, and so I always think like too, if I retired, I'd want to retire somewhere with a lot of space. Maybe I can garden, I have time.
That's what I feel. Yeah, that's
I have
gonna
room
be
for hobbies,
That's gonna be.
You're gonna be bored as shit if you retire. We're both so busy all the time. If we have to sit still, all of a sudden we're gonna be like, oh, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, that's what I would love to come back to have a little bit more connection to the nature. This is our biggest task between me and my wife, because I'm quite urban. I love to DJ. I love to go out. I love to hanging out, to have a cocktail, to have a restaurant. But at the same time, I really know when I see myself living and working in nature.
Yeah. Well, especially loving animals and stuff at the very beginning.
I think it's, when you should follow sometimes where you are, when you are a child.
Yeah. That's the original instinct,
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we sit sometimes, and you've seen our view. We have an incredible view, and we're very lucky. But sometimes I'll sit and I'll look and I go like, no birds. There's like dogs and cats, we don't see cats, but there's like people walking dogs. But besides that, I mean, we see a squirrel occasionally, like very rarely.
No coyote here?
No coyotes. No. It's a little too loud for them. We're by Dolores Park. I think it's a little too close. But yeah, not a ton of nature. And I'm with you. I mean, growing up in those more rural areas, I'm kind of used to nature and.
But pretty much it's going to be the same with you as well. You grow up like in Joshua Tree and you want just to go somewhere else, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's tough. When I left, I didn't know what I wanted to do either. I mean, I had worked as a food runner and a busboy at 16 and at 17. And then when I turned 18, my dad said, like, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. And he goes, well, I'm a plumber. Like, I want you to do something inside in the air conditioning. And I said, like, okay, great. And so I chose the restaurant industry, which is like not easy, right? We would text back and forth when he was alive. We would say like, how many steps did you do today? And he'd go like 18,000. And I'm like 22,000. And he'd say like, fuck you, And I go like, yeah, I got you. But yeah, I think I moved to Galveston, and Galveston is pretty. It's not rural, but it's very suburban, and so San Francisco is my first city, and it's
Ah,
my
okay.
first time living in a major city, and I think in a way it was a disadvantage because when I moved here I was 28, and so it was loud and I can't sleep and there's too much
Yeah,
noise
it's
and
different.
a
Yeah.
lot of stress, and so I think I'm finally getting to the point now where I'm just kind of a lot more used to things. But having not experienced a lot as a kid, like it was hard for me. I didn't do a lot of traveling. I mean, I went to Nicaragua a couple times, but this is something Bianca and I talk about a lot is like the hustle culture that's in the restaurant industry, and maybe it's not in Italy or in South Africa or in Australia. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But here it's like this, well, I'll fucking work 80 hours a week. Like it's like we wear this like badge of pride that we work so much or that we are not taking care of ourselves or we're just like work, 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 work. And so to me, like when I was in Texas, it was just like I would spend all my vacation coming back to see my family. We'd get 2 weeks. I'd spend a week twice a year. I'd come back, I'd see them, I'd hang out, spend time with them, and that was great. And that was like my vacation, but I never really traveled a lot. So I don't think that I really appreciated where I was when I was there ever.
Yeah, I get you.
So, but now we're getting to a point in San Francisco where even though things are weird right now, the market's in a weird place. We're like, we like it. If we left, maybe we'd miss it. Whereas, like, when I moved before, I'm like, I don't care. It's not a big deal. I won't miss it. And then I like leave and I go like, oh, I wish I could go back. So,
No, yeah. For me, it's a city that I always wanted to visit. Actually, it was on the I was on the point to move here when I was in Mexico City, but then I didn't make it for lots of reason. So it's always stayed like in here. That's why this is was a good part of the decision because I wanted to at least to give it a try and to see because I always feel connected. Another my passion is but on the music is the garage punk and
yeah, yeah.
lots of I'm really grateful now to be friends of the bands that they were like my idols
Yeah, yeah.
and now I'm just hanging out with them.
That's so cool.
It's great for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's something that a major city does. It's really like a cultural melting pot. I mean, Galveston, it was like I sold a lot of wine, but I sold like a lot of kind of bigger brands when I worked for Glazers and Southern Glazers, and it was great. But when I came to San Francisco, I was like, whoa, it's an incredibly rich
Game changer.
culture,
Yeah.
and it's very rich, the wine side and the service industry side. And I mean, culturally, there's a lot of amazing things. There's a lot of little pockets of the city that have amazing different like cultures with food and all of these
And
other
especially
things.
sort of related to our jobs.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good city,
It's a
right?
mecca, yeah,
It's
for
always
wine.
been like that, right? Like it's always been like a like food industry mecca for the States. Or I'm wrong? Well, it's
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think I always kind of try to attribute it to one thing in particular, and I'm not sure that this is the right idea, but to me, I always think like California is a very kind of like rich, diverse state. Well, we have a lot of international airports. So that's part of it. There's a lot of international travelers that are coming and people moving from other places and opening businesses and opening things. But I think like the wine industry must have been a big thing. Obviously, we have Napa Valley and Sonoma pretty close. So there's that. But how did that become the wine mecca? And to me, I think it's like partly because we were an international airport and people would fly in and out of France and fly in and out of Italy and could come here and go like, wow, we really like it. It's beautiful. It's cheaper. And now Napa's the most expensive land that you could buy. But
that's true.
yeah, it's a weird turn of events. But yeah, I mean, San Francisco's got incredible wine culture, and it's one of the things that we're the most grateful for. And it's one of the things, like another reason that we kind of started the podcast is because it's such a great community, and I don't feel like any of us have time to like hang out with each other and spend time with each other. And like my dream is that like you're gonna do this podcast, we're gonna air the podcast. Somebody else in the industry is gonna watch your interview and go like, that guy looks cool as fuck. Like I want to be his friend, and they're like gonna come see you and they're gonna want to hang out with you, and we're just gonna kind of like build this community, because I think it's kind of like lacking since the pandemic. When I moved here in 19, it was a tight knit community. 18.
It's just been dismantled a little bit.
Yeah, and then since the pandemic, you know, it was like we're also seeing restaurants consolidating roles. It's like now you're the GM and you're the bar manager and you do the schedule and you do the payroll and you do fucking everything, you know. So you don't have time to go to like social events or tasting groups or whatever. You don't really have time to surround yourself with all these amazing
I would love
people.
to, but sometimes you have to choose and whatever. Like for 15 that you can do it, like you probably just been out 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely. And in our job is very important, like relationship and, you know, communication, friendship are very important.
Very important. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's to me, I've always said that like the sales side of things, my job is selling wine, like that's what pays me. But my job is really like managing relationships. You know, it's about like I'm lucky, I guess, in a way, because I feel like I can be authentic, and I feel like people usually sometimes like me. But I feel like, you know, in general, like I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to like, I'm not going to, you know, steal today to pay tomorrow kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'm not going to push you to buy something you don't want, because then in 2 years, you're not going to want to buy anything from me. Right. I'd rather us taste stuff, listen to what you have to say. I don't like it, or I like it. It doesn't work with the program. Great.
Okay, then
I don't need to
you
push
know
you.
next time you know what to offer me, or
Exactly,
at
right.
least I grow up like a trust on,
Yeah.
on your figure.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part is like, you know, sometimes we see in the sales industry, like somebody new will start and they'll go in and they have like this, like, I deserve part of your list. Or even if your wines are great, it's like, great, your wines are great, but like you don't deserve anything, right? Like you need to earn everything. So I think it's interesting in that sense. But you guys at Montesacro and 54 Mint, you guys do a really great job of just like making people feel warm and welcome. And
Thank you.
I don't know if it's just the fact that you're Italians and you're just hospitable by nature, but you guys do a great job. I mean, Bianca and I say, like, anytime we come in to see you guys, we leave and we're like, oh, I saw those guys. Like, oh my God, how are they doing? You know, and like always excited. So, Jean-Luc has done a really great job of fostering a good relationship and fostering
Yeah, you
some
made a great team.
good kids. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's the classic cheesy sentence, but that is not gonna be the first time that you see. But it's good when you reach to make a kind of a family team.
yeah.
That's where the result came.
Yeah.
I'm not saying automatically, because you have still to put like lots of efforts,
Time and effort. Yeah, for sure.
and work hard. Work hard in a family environment.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's nice to work hard and look to your left and look to your right. Well, I did left and right. And everybody else is working hard too.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like it creates a lot of distance when you're working hard and you look and like somebody else is standing around not doing shit, and you go like, hey, motherfucker, like pull your weight. You know what I mean? So it's, I think that's really important too. And I think that's where, you know, when people hire like a good team, that's great, because everybody can like set the pace for each other. They like hold each other accountable. They challenge each other. They push each other. They lead each other, and they follow each other at the same time. You know, it's this great like symbiotic relationship where everybody's pushing forward, versus like, I've worked at places sometimes where, you know, I'll start and I like look around me and I'm like, everybody else is lazy as fuck.
Oh, I used to work with people like hating each other, doing all the worst thing to let each one to be on their interests,
Yeah.
Because I want to be successful, so I'm just gonna say all the bad things about Christopher, and it's really hard then to coming back and go working in an environment like this, because
Yeah.
then it's hard to make hospitality,
Yeah.
if you work in a not a nice environment, in my opinion.
No, certainly. I think you're right. And I think also too, like another thing that you guys do really well is that you go to like team dinners and stuff like that. I think that's super important, or do some kind of like team building exercise, Large corporations will do things like once a year they do like a softball tournament or whatever. They are constantly thinking about like, how do I build this community tighter? Restaurants, I don't feel like have the time or the space for that, because they're open from 11 a.m. to
7 days a week,
9 p.m.
most
7
of
days
the
a week.
time, yeah.
And then you have Thanksgiving and Christmas off. And like, you want to spend it with your family.
Probably,
You know what I mean? Maybe in most cases. So I think that's another thing too, is like it takes a lot of effort on the business's front to build ways for people to kind of be able to grow together and to share their hobbies and share time together. Because sometimes, especially when a restaurant's busy, like you don't have time to just sit and be like, oh, what kind of music do you like? Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Like, I like that too. Or, what food do you like, or whatever, like it's, you don't have time. You're just like surviving every day, which is, like I said, probably the reason that I didn't travel as much when I was young. Cool. Okay. And so, one of the things that you and I are working on that I'm really excited about is we're going to do a little collaborative event. We're doing a Sardinian takeover. We
That's
are going
right.
to take over Trevino Wine Bar that Bianca and I consult on, and you're going to come DJ, and we're going to pour some Sardinian wines. And we've kind of like talked about a couple wines and
I'm
a
so
couple
excited.
wineries, but that's going to be even if it's not super busy, I don't care, because we're just going to have fun anyways. And that's worth it for me. But I'm sure that it's going to be a great time, and I'm sure that we're going to have a good turnout. We'll promote it well, I promise. We're a little disorganized most of the time. I'm disorganized. Bianca's not. But I guess, there's so much about Sardinia that like we don't know and that we don't really like experience. You think about like Vermentino or Canonau. But there's so many other things, like we have a Cagnolari in the
Cagnolari.
book. And then other than that, I don't.
Bovale, Carignano. Carignano,
That's
very
okay.
good.
Yeah.
Yes, Southwest. It's this since the last summer. There's a kind of renaissance from the middle to the north of Sardinia. A couple of friends of mine, and not just friends of mine, they are in both league again, Nebbiolo.
Whoa, Sardinian Nebbiolo?
Yeah, in Mandrolisai, in the south, actually not south, like center, the very, very center of
Yeah.
Sardinia, and a little bit in the north, just down South Gallura. Is Nebbiolo. It's a little fattier, of course,
Sure.
and richer,
Yeah.
but the Mandrolesai one are not bad result actually.
That's pretty cool.
But then it's plenty. It's Cannonau Bianco,
Yeah.
so it's a white varietals. Then I love Giro. You can find Giro even in Mallorca, and it's an aromatic grape to do like a sweet red wine. But you can make a really kick-ass rosé or dry red, like easy red, because in Sardinia as well it's pretty common to find a full body red. It's nowadays
It's a little bit of
we
a
are
warmer climate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can get can get 100 Fahrenheit easy.
Yeah.
And we have Alberello. Most of the vineyard, or the one that I love, are Alberello. So the grape can get cooked.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are now. I think there is finally the people is going all together instead, because Sardinia. One of the people say about Sardinia is that we are pocos, locos, and malunidos. So just a few crazy and disunited.
That's funny.
And actually now it's a little bit changing. Before, when I used to work in the cheese and wine shop, a winemaker from the north of Sardinia, this is just an example, came 4 hours of travel, came in the south and say, oh, you don't have any wine from the north? And say, well, you just take 4 hours of cars, just discover something new.
Yeah.
And before guys from Nuoro want just to drink wine from Nuoro, and
Right.
it was like a little closed man mindset.
Yeah.
Now it's changing a little bit. Now the people is helping each other. They are, exchanging their knowledge, and it's working. It's like the same thing that's happened with the Barolo Boys,
That's what I was gonna say. It seems like that's the journey to the future is
Even, well,
sharing knowledge
how
and
can you imagine
resources.
how cool it is to sharing? This is even what I love to make hospitality, because hospitality is to make, to give a memorable experience to a customer.
Right.
But in my opinion, is even making culture.
Yeah.
You have to instruct and let people discover new things, but really making culture, especially nowadays, because everybody's complaining about, the food cost, the food quality, but just talking the speech of before, because we lost our pet and we just started to overproduce, and we understood now that $1 piece of cheese, it's okay. It's not, because probably it's a frozen milk.
Sure,
that
yeah.
you don't even claim.
Yeah.
It's pasteurized.
It's okay, but it's not good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you don't gonna die. It's okay, but then
yeah.
don't tell me that this is the right cheese
Yeah.
or that this is the true cheese.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I think that, however much, as a non-Italian, here's my outsider perspective, however much I don't always like the DOCG system, I think that they did a lot right in a lot of ways. And I think that it made a lot of sense when they established it and when they set it up, that they were really trying to kind of push a standard, because you'd go into American grandparents' house and there's Riuniti, and you're like, that's fucking Italian wine, or you'd go and you'd get boxes of Chianti, and you go that's Italian wine. And by kind of establishing these DOCGs, they were able to kind of force a certain level of quality, but it's almost too restrictive in a way too, because there's not a lot of creative freedom.
Yeah. And then even it depends by the region, for example.
Sure.
By the region and by the DOCG, because, for example, Piedmont, how they structure the DOCG, in my opinion, it's really well made, because they talk about the land, the terroir, pardon for this word, but now it's...
Yeah.
But it's true, when you're talking about Lessona, you're talking about certain kind of, it's not talking about even the grape, actually, anymore. It's just, the knowledge of centuries or 50 or 70 years in that precise area with that
Of
soil.
knowing that soil,
with that family, with the families.
Yeah.
And this is the result. It's what's the matter to talk about Nebbiolo, DOCG. This is, for example, because in Sardinia, the DOC, they are not made so well, in my opinion. For example, Piemonte is a little French culture on denomination, which is, for me, it's worked well, because you have to talk about, again, it could be the grape, but it's not just the grape. It's where the grapes grow.
Yeah.
Who's growing.
Well, Tuscany has a similar thing, right?
In Sardinia, for example, lots of friends of mine, great producer, they don't care, honestly. They don't want.
Yeah.
They don't want to be part of the DOCG, because they told me, this cannot now, DOC, because DOCG is just the Vermentino in Sardinia. DOC, what the customer understand if you can have a €2.50, €3 can now on the low shelf of market, or you can have a $70. The customer, of course, can get confused. They say, what the DOC? It's different than what you say. For example, it doesn't mean, it doesn't have to be quality.
Sure. Yeah.
So that has to be changed a little bit, and is changing. But still, again, now that some DOCG are very 80s, so you have to, for sure, filter it, or have to be super bright, which nowadays it's kind of passed by.
A little less common,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I was having a conversation. This makes me think of a conversation that I had 6 or 7 months ago, I had Julien Barreau from Chateauneuf de Pape and his winery Domaine de la Baroche. And the wines are great. They're incredible. And like Chateauneuf de Pape is kind of like the wild, wild west. You grow fucking everything. They have like, I'm going to butcher it. It's like 16 or 22 or 23 or something different grapes. And they can use all of them in whatever percentage they want. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want, right? And then he was making a Côte de Rhône wine, but he didn't want to use 15% Syrah because Grenache is what he feels the most passionately about. So because he didn't want to use 15% Syrah, he can't make Côte de Rhône. What the fuck is that? You know what I mean?
This is
That's where you kind of go like, wait a minute. Like you would think that Chateauneuf de Pape, which is like Barolo, is like very restrictive. It's very enforced. It's like it needs to be this. It needs minimum aging requirements. Whatever. But like in this case, it's like making a Lange wine and saying like,
no,
you have to have this. You have to have this. It has to be this. Blah 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 blah. It's kind of wild. I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, in Germany and in Austria, they're moving away from.
Even in Bourgogne, imagine in Bourgogne with imagine having the DOC or not having.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. It's huge. Yeah. I mean, it's like the Bordeaux houses. It's the same thing. There's
they can totally like change like your business plan.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because you're thinking that these 50,000 bottles gonna go in this certain kind of sector. And just because somebody, it's wake up in a wrong way. I'm not saying that. I'm exaggerating, but
No, but kind of,
I remember I saw a couple of video documentary of some rejected wine where the guys have to revolt because it's not even the case. If you are in Bourgogne, it's not even the case to say, oh, whatever, I'm just gonna sell the wine. It is an act of resistance. It's no, actually in Bourgogne, you want to.
Yeah.
First for your pride.
You're kind of fucked. Yeah.
And even because you have probably people to feed.
Yep.
It's family and.
Yeah, you could sell it for $10 a bottle without it, or you could sell it for $40 a bottle with it. Right? Like, what would you fight for?
For example, still in Sardinia, if I will be a winemaker in Sardinia, I can still totally don't care too much because it doesn't change myself.
Sure.
My winery life too much. If this is not a Vermentino DOCG or if it's just Isola di Nuraghi, in Sardinia still the people know me as myself, but in Bourgogne it's we are talking about is champagne.
Yeah.
Try to sell like as a Cremant or.
It's so different. Yeah. I mean, and I guess like the last major change in kind of the Italian wine side of things, at least in like larger producers, right? Because you think like there's a lot of like young hip people that are kind of like starting and kind of doing things on their own, and they're really establishing themselves for the winery. There's a lot of kind of people that have like come out of the woodworks and are like doing their own thing, and that's really cool. But like the last time that we saw like a really big shakeup in like a major region was like Super Tuscans,
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the creation for the IGT category, because they were just like, fuck this, like this is dumb, and they all just kind of like got together and got on the same page and decided it. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to think like a bunch of Barolo producers going like, oh, we don't want to use the name Barolo anymore.
No, actually, they won't even. There is like you selling in the right moment because now they are fighting to change the denomination of Barolo and Barbaresco.
Wow.
And now I had to study. I had to study it a little bit more because I read it 1 month ago.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little mess. They are. Probably I'm telling you wrong, but probably now that me and you, we are Barbaresco and Barolo producer.
Yeah.
Like we can bottle the Barolo in the Barbaresco area and vice versa.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, because before you have to have two separate wineries. One winery in Barbaresco, one winery in Barolo to be bottling.
But then there are even other different, kind of problematic. I don't know if I spoke with some guy in Piedmont that told me I'm never gonna pass by, but I'm not sure. There are lots of interest, lots of money.
There's a lot of things changing, and I don't know. I keep hearing about this. I don't know much about it. Maybe you know more than I do. Is like also the EU is taking away a lot of funding for Piemonte, right? There's like some kind of not a kickback necessarily, but there's been some funding for Barolo and Barbaresco production.